Hey guys, as usual I've got a whole lot of stuff going on, but I'm going to try really hard to remain focused on the Philco 3930 radio restoration. However, I am waiting on some mica caps to arrive in the mail. Those are to fix the preset circuitry, and I'm waiting for the lacquer to cure on the cabinet. So in the meantime, I'm going to do a couple videos on some recent acquisitions, one of which I just came back with. Some of you may recognize this right away. It is indeed another Motorola electrostatic TV set. However, it is a model I do not already have. Although it looks a lot like the suitcase that I've got, there's one distinct difference. This is an 8-inch set. Most Motorola TVs of this type were 7-inch and used the 7JP4. Well, this is 8-inch and used an 8BP4, and there are far fewer of these than there are of the 7-inch. I was poking around on Craigslist and just tried searching for some terms I don't normally search for, which would be like antique radio, antique TV, vintage TV, and so on. I found this listed as the very first portable TV. I'm not entirely sure that's true, but it certainly was a very early portable TV. And it was fairly nearby, so I called up the seller and went out there and took a look, and we struck a bargain, and here it is. From what I can see, it's in pretty good condition. Most of the key stuff is there. Got all the knobs. Got the little squiggle M logo. Got the faceplate. The CRT seems to be intact. I thought it was missing one of the feet at first, but it was floating around inside. It does have the antenna. Now I know on the other one I've got, the 7-inch suitcase set, there's a strap that was in here that would hold it in place. And I'm sure this used to have it too. You can see there's 2 screws here and 2 holes here. But there was also a base, and the antenna could either snap into a 1/4-inch plug in the top of the cabinet, or there was a base. However, I looked around online and I couldn't find any photos of this set, which is the Model 9L1. I couldn't find any photos that had that base, they just had the antenna, so maybe I'm only missing the strap and that's it. The other thing it's missing is the back, which is not entirely uncommon because these used a back that was made out of like a masonite type material and they tend to deteriorate. Here's a better look at the cabinet. It's got a material I think that's called Tolex covering it, which is kind of like wallpaper. Some odd discoloration here, maybe fading. That might clean out, I'm not sure. There's not a whole lot you can do with this material. It just pretty much is what it is. I suppose you could try staining it or clear coating it, but on the few sets I've got to use it, I just clean it up as best I can and leave it alone. As for the back, there it is. So all I've got left is just a fragment of the back. But a pretty important fragment, because that's the fragment that has the power cord. So if I were to fabricate a new back, there we go. I've got this key piece down here, which is where the cheater cord plugs in. The cord actually looks like it could be used. And in fact, the seller did hint that he had tried plugging it in. So there was a wire loose on the back, like on the plug on this. Doesn't really seem to be the case though. So let's see. It's got the nasty old original metal type Motorola ballast, which is probably bad. Otherwise, looks like all the tubes are there. I thought at first that speaker might be loose and it was at an odd angle, but that is actually how it mounts on there. This picture tube, metal shield. Yeah, other than the back being trashed, some of the fabric being torn in the corner here, seems to be in pretty good shape. I believe my Sencor CR70 can test this type of picture tube. So I'm going to bring it inside and hook that up and keep my fingers crossed. I've got this set up inside on my workbench and I've hooked it up to my CR70. Now my CR70 does not list the 8BP4, nor does it list the 7JP4, but one of the other television restorers, it must have a different production run because his manual does have the 7JP4 and he kindly scanned this for me. Now I don't have the next page, which I presume probably did have the 8BP4, but essentially they were electrically identical, so I just used the 7JP4 settings. Now, you've probably heard me mention a few times about how hard picture tubes are to find and how they're no longer being rebuilt in this country. Well, this one even goes a step beyond that because very few sets used this. It was only used for probably 1 year, maybe 2, and these could never be rebuilt by anybody. So if this is bad, this will probably become a part set. Or maybe I could put a 7JP4 in it and it would just be a little bit smaller. So get your fingers and toes crossed because here we go. Alright. I do not see a filament glow, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything because it might be covered up by the shield or the base. Plus I've only got the filament at 5 volts. So let's get that up on the line to 6.3. And man, I still don't see anything. I'm going to cut the lighting down in here and see if I can see the filament glow. Oh yes, we do have a glow. It's very, very hard to see. In fact, what I think we're seeing is the light reflecting off of one of the interior metal elements. The filament must be really buried down in there somewhere. I don't recall it being quite so hard to see on 7JP4s. But hey, let's continue on with the tests and see how it does. Okay, first we test for HK shorts. We are good. G1 shorts. We are good. Cut off. Rising, rising, rising. If I turn this knob, the needle should move, and it does. Fantastic. Just to get it inside of that, which is the normal operating range. And now for the emission test. Wow. That's a very, very good sign. And I'll do the emission life test, which has dubious value, but if you push it and the needle doesn't move, that's a very good thing. If it drops off rapidly, well, it's pretty much just power up the set. And usually if it drops off rapidly, you'd still watch it. It may not have a whole lot of life left, but at any rate, this one seems to test really, really good. So that is fantastic. Now I've heard again and again that the only true test of these is to actually power them up in a working set. Well, I seriously doubt this set is working, but I just so happen to have a VT71 chassis handy that has been fully restored, and I can put a piggyback to this and hook that connector up to this picture tube. I took the front off the set, so hopefully we'll be seeing a glow on the picture tube. I also plugged in the antenna so you can see how that would have worked. Unfortunately, one of the balls is broken off. I'll probably have a very hard time replacing that. Now as for the back side here, so here is my restored VT71 chassis. I simply took the socket that normally would be facing this way and twisted it around and plugged it into the back of the 8BP4. So if I turn this set on, this should work. I turned the lights off so we can see everything glowing, hopefully. I'm going to turn it on right now. There's the ballast tube lighting up. You can see the other tubes are glowing now. I don't have a speaker hooked up, so there won't be any sound, but hopefully we'll see at least a raster on this thing. Not yet. Might have to mess with the brightness control. Let's see, there it is. Ah, that got it. Awesome. So next, I guess I'll hook up a signal source and hook up a speaker, and let's see if we can actually watch something on this set. Well, so to speak. Obviously, we're not really running this set. We're just using the picture tube, isn't it? Okay, I've got an over-the-air ATSC to NTSC converter going to VT71 chassis, and I've got a speaker hooked up. So let's give this a try. Raster. There's noise. No image. I don't know what channel this is set to, but this box can do channel 3 and 4, so I'll just try switching that first. Okay. I'm going to set the camera down now and fiddle with the controls until I can get a stable picture. First off, let's see about that hold. Horizontal. Vertical, alright. Much better. Kind of hard to do when I can't see the picture while I'm adjusting. Alright, well, I think that's close enough. Clearly the picture tube is fine. Before we move on, I thought I should show you guys a quick look at the sister set to the 9L1, which is the 9T1 I picked up a while ago. I got this for only 20 bucks off eBay because it was in pretty miserable condition. I guess nobody else wanted to take a chance on it, but the picture tube in this is good, and the chassis appears to be 100% original components. It was missing all the knobs. There's a big chunk broken out of the cabinet here and various other defects. But what I wanted you to see is how similar the styling is. Same type of knobs, same 8BP4 picture tube, but this is Bakelite, and that's the suitcase version. There's also one other version that is in a nice wood cabinet. that has a set of red knobs that are really, really hard to find. I don't recall what the model number is on that, but I think it's the rarest of the three. Before I can pull the chassis, there's a few things I have to do. First, remove the knobs, which I've already done. And these are in pretty good shape. A little bit of brass cleaner on the inserts will really make them pop. Fabric's a little bit dirty. Maybe I can do something about that, but I'm inclined to just leave well enough alone. What really holds the chassis in are these feet. Not only do these screws hold the feet to the cabinet, but they also screw right to the chassis. After that, well, I've already disconnected the picture tube, but I also have to reach way down in there and pull out the two connections to the speaker, and then I should be able to pull this out. Alright, I got the chassis out, and I noticed that one of the speaker leads was already disconnected and the other one was very loose, so there might have been a problem while somebody was still using this set. Looks to be in pretty good shape, I'm happy to say. All the tubes are here, all the caps. Oh, wait, well, obviously there's one tube missing. I don't know why. I was just saying all the tubes are here. Of course there's one missing right there. As memory serves, that would be a 12SN7, just like this. And that's a 6SL7, 25L6, and so on. This is a series wired set. In fact, there's two series wired chains of tubes, neither one of which adds up to the full line voltage, which is why you've got this big ballast device here, which are extremely prone to failure because they're exposed to air, and you can see it gets rusty and corroded and the elements inside just burn out and no more TV. Got an original warning here about the glass picture tube is dangerous to service. Please refer to qualified Motorola service person for adjustments. This is a TS18A chassis. Occasionally you can get a little jolt from some of these pots here. So these three are actually plastic shafts, and they put some knobs on these, which are the horizontal and vertical hold. Although I think that's to give you a little more torque when you adjust these because they're kind of touchy. And I removed the old power jack with what little there is left of the original back, which was like a masonite type material. Prior rotted away along with the feet because this set was left sitting with this side to ground for who knows how long. This corner is completely, actually both corners along the bottom are just really, really badly worn, especially this one. So there's even some wood lost here. But anyways, the rest of the chassis looks to be in good shape. I have not seen this little shield before. Maybe that was because of the larger picture tube. It could cause some arcing between the picture tube and the metal shield here. I have seen arcing before in some of my 7-inch sets. When I was testing them on the workbench and the glass neck of the CRT would get too close to the chassis, it would actually arc right through the CRT neck to the chassis, so I suspect that's what that's for. This is an audio tube, and the shield here is to reduce the interference to that. As for the underneath. I've restored 2 or 3 of these, and I have quite a few altogether in my collection, so I'm somewhat familiar with the way these look. And I can tell right away there's been a little bit of work done on this guy. Not a whole lot, but the usual stuff. It looks like every single high voltage cap has been replaced. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, all 5 have been replaced. And this guy has been replaced. The rest look original though, including the Mighty Midget. See, there's a Motorola logo on these. And these are the original orange selenium rectifiers, I imagine. Or maybe not. Yeah, you know, I take that back. This is actually some telephone wire, it looks like, solid core, which they definitely wouldn't have used originally. And these rectifiers are a little too big. They're actually butting up into components here. I think the originals would have been more like this guy. Larger in surface area and shorter. So that does not look at all safe right there. That's like the AC line voltage getting awfully close to that capacitor. Not a good thing at all. Of course, if you want to restore one of these, the best thing to do is to disconnect these entirely. You might want to leave them in for cosmetics' sake, but definitely replace them with a modern silicon diode. In radios, generally you would also put something like a 47 ohm resistor in series, because these selenium rectifiers were not as efficient as silicon diodes. But in these sets, it doesn't seem to make all that much of a difference. They're pretty forgiving to variations in voltage. This is something else I've seen in one or two sets. There's a sticker down in there that says "Do it right." A couple other guys have found that in sets too. We suspect that there was some point in time on the production line when people were making repeated mistakes, so they decided that they would start putting that sticker on the chassis to remind people to do things the right way. Perhaps it was related to the channel selector wafer switch here, and people were putting them in upside down or backwards or who knows what. But otherwise, yeah, this looks like a pretty familiar territory. Some of these replacement caps are kind of not exactly appropriate. These sprays are probably alright. Yeah, 0.001 6000, 005 6000. But these two guys, this one and this, these are ceramic. These you would typically see in a magnetic deflection like a 10-inch or 12-inch TV, and these would be on the flyback output and on the 1B3 rectifier tube to filter the high voltage. It's not a good idea to use ceramic capacitors in here. They should be film capacitors, because from what I've read online, ceramic capacitors have an odd inherent property in that the capacitance varies as the voltage across them changes. And these couple the sweep signals into the deflection plates on the electrostatic picture tube, which are sawtooth waves. Very precise ramp, and a sharp drop, ramp, sharp drop. If you put it through these guys, they end up being more of a distorted curve, which means you lose linearity. I'll be replacing all of those when I get around to it with caps like these. ASC seems to be the main place that makes them these days. If you can get them, 10,000 are awesome to use, but they seem to be pretty hard to find. Otherwise, you can go with the 6,000 volt guys. Allied Electronics carries them, but they seem to be perpetually out of stock. 8,000s are great to use too. But officially, the parts list does call for 6,000s. I like to use 8 or 10 when I can, just to give myself some overhead, because the set does run fairly close to 6,000 under normal operation. For sure, you can get these from Just Radios, and when they're in stock, you can get them from Allied Electronics. Other than that, I don't know of anybody else that carries these. So I guess that's about it for now. Hope you guys enjoyed this little look at a Motorola 9L1 8-inch electrostatic TV from around 1949.